Monica Crowley. She's a radio talk show CBS columnist. Both are Fox News contributors. So there's the theory that the president is sabotaging the country so he can reshape it, based in part on what Bill and others deem the president's his refusal to deal with Republicans in a way that could realistically produce a compromise on the other end. Kirsten, your thoughts?
Well, I have come around to agreeing, and I guess in theory, with the idea that the president is sort of trying to destroy the Republicans in an effort to get the House back, because then he, in the last 2 years, could pass all the things that he wants to pass that he can't get done with the Republicans. I was very skeptical about that, but it's a little hard to look at the way what the president's been behaving and not come to that conclusion. I don't think it's venal. I think it's just he just feels like he can't get done what he needs to get done with the people who are in Congress. You
know, Monica, when you look at the other side, a lot of folks say, look, this president would love to, contrary to what Bill was positing in his talking points, cut spending and get our debt crisis under control, but he faces an intransigent opposition that refuses to raise taxes, and he thinks he needs a balanced approach and people need to meet him in the middle. And we've heard the president say many times that he's been responsible for he's reduced our deficit by more than $2.5 trillion. They say that over and over. He's reduced our deficit by more than $2.5 trillion, but that these Republicans won't agree to tax hikes.
Well, let's deal in reality here about his circumstances. First, he is not the new guy on the block. He has been the president now for over 4 years, and there is no piece of evidence over the last 4 years that indicates any desire, A, to work with Republicans, B, to rein in the deficit, C, to control government and spending and get this debt under control. Also remember, Megyn, that in his first 2 years, he had huge Democratic congressional majorities that allowed him to do whatever he wanted. So if he were really being truthful in 2008 when he said, by my first term, I'm going to cut this deficit in half.
He says we were in crisis then, and Megyn, it was all about crisis management when he first got in office.
We now have 4 years of evidence as to what this man meant when he talked about the fundamental transformation of the nation. And what he means by that is moving America away from a self-sufficient society based on individual freedom and free market economics and toward a Western European model of socialism and a welfare state. That's why he will not work with Republicans. That's why he has not put up any numbers except for budgets that have been so absurd they can't even get Democrats to vote for it.
I mean, Kirsten, I went back and I'm trying to look at these $2.5 trillion in deficit reductions. And what I gather is there's only $1.4 trillion of true spending reduction. The rest is like tax hikes and so on. Okay, so true spending reductions. And of that $1.4 trillion in spending reductions that he's agreed to, they take place over the next several years through 2022, and it remains to be seen whether the cuts will be implemented and whether the future Congresses will actually make them, which leads to some frustration by people who want to see actual cuts.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, Republicans expect Obama to buy into their view of the world. And his view of the world is not that the deficit is an immediate problem that needs to be dealt with. And I share the same view as the president. It is right now, you do not need to be cutting a lot of the spending, even like the stuff that's happening with sequestration. People are going to lose jobs. That is not good for a fragile recovery. So to expect him to buy into this worldview that he doesn't have and most liberals don't have does not make him venal. And in terms of whether he, I mean, you just poo-pooed, Monica, the fact that in his budget he has cuts. I mean, where else is he supposed to put them? In his 2013 budget, he has cuts to Medicaid. He has, very specific cuts that add up to about $400 billion. He's also, with Social Security, has talked about doing chained CPI, which is something Republicans support. And what's that?
Don't say chained CPI. No one knows what that is. It's basically a reduction to Social Security payments.
It's something that would be a different way of measuring inflation that would result in major cost savings for Social Security. So whether or not this has been the central focus of his administration, and I don't think it has, and I think he could be doing more on it, it's just inaccurate, as Bill said last night, to claim he's never proposed anything.
Here's a question for you. Here's a question for you, Kirsten. if you assume that he means what he says when you're talking about these potential cuts that he is willing to put on the table, if you assume that he means what he says, then let's say he gets a full Democratic Congress and keeps the Senate for the last 2 years of his presidency. Do you honestly believe he will see those cuts through? The man has done the exact opposite over the last 4 years. There is nothing in his pattern of behavior or history to suggest that he would follow through. In fact, he has blown up spending to an unprecedented degree.
And then I'll let you weigh in, Kirsten, but I do want to say that then there was a report from, I believe it was Speaker John Boehner, who said the president specifically told him he doesn't believe we have a spending problem.
Right. Well, look, there is the fact of the matter also, most of the Democrats in Congress don't want to touch entitlements, so I think that would be a difficult thing to do. I'm just talking about facts. What he has put on the table. For Bill to say he has not made any proposals is not true. You can have another discussion about what his priorities are, but I don't think going back to what he did in the first 4 years is a good example.
All right, let me ask you
this. In crisis.
Follow-up question for you, Kirsten. What about, I asked Steyerwalt about this at the top of the hour. Mitch McConnell got skewered by the left when he came out and said our #1 goal is to defeat President Obama in re-election. And then he came out and said, well, I meant political goal, but whatever. I mean, people were very upset with him for saying that. And if this is true, this Washington Post report and this theory that President Obama, that his real goal here is not to attack the budget or avoid sequestration or any of this stuff. It's about getting the Democrats the control of the House in 2014. Isn't that the same thing?
Yes, it's exactly the same thing, Megan. I mean, that's why I am always a pox on everybody. Like, they're all terrible. You know, I'm not defending any Obama's behavior. The sequestration stuff is insane, the way that it's being handled. I'm just saying that if we want to talk about what he's proposed in terms of entitlement cuts, he has made some proposals. That's all I'm saying.
You know, when she talks, it's like putting a warm blanket around you, isn't it, Monica? Like, they're all terrible.
I love Kirsten. But we have to understand, guys, we have to understand, I love Kirsten to death. We are not dealing with a normal president here. He is not a problem solver. He is a problem creator, and he's a fundamental transformer. That's what drives him every day. And his legacy, by the way, is not bipartisan legislation or working with the Congress. His legacy in his own mind is that fundamental transformation of the nation. That's why you don't see him behaving like a normal president would.
We'll leave it with Raheem's question about whether or not he is, in fact, wearing his big boy pants. Monica and Kirsten, thank you.
You bet.
Thank you.